What's up, Pags here at MEI Studio. After many years of searching, I finally got my hands on a mic from the 90s that I almost bought new back then, but didn't. We're going to take a look at the oddball AKG D3600, this time on the mic logger. Picture, if you will, a young, spry Pags fresh out of high school, just starting to build his studio, going to the local music store to purchase some mics. He had just borrowed a pair of kick mics from a friend to record a band called Deprived of Talent, and needed to own a good pair of kick mics to move forward with things. He walks up to the counter and asks about those cool AKG D112 mics that he just used to record. Salesman says, yeah, we got them in stock. They're about $329 each. Broke Pags sighed and took a breath. The salesman, seeing that that pill was a little hard to swallow, offered a suggestion for another mic from AKG that was a little less. Kind of looked similar and had some cool stuff under the hood, but different. He runs in the back and comes back with 4 boxes. 2 D112 boxes and 2 D3600 boxes. The mics were not sold in the cool black Peppa Pig looking plastic cases yet that were given in the early 2000s. No. These were horribly 90s looking blue boxes with a bunch of random mics floating all over the top of the box art. Yeah, that. Anywho, the other mic was the D3600. The model number was 3488 higher than the D112. Must mean it's better, right? The mic was priced lower. If I recall, it was either $289 or $299, so it wasn't a huge savings, but still something. I had used the D112s and knew what I was getting, but I'd never heard of these other things. Even though the D112s were going to cost me an extra 60 or 70 bucks, I was familiar with them, and I liked the sound, and they were pretty much the modern industry standard for recording rock and metal at the time. So I picked up the D112s, paid, and left. Always wondering what did those other ones sound like. Probably should have tried them out in the store, but I guess too late for that. Well, anyway, those were discontinued soon after, and the D112 kept rolling, and for the most part, they're still rolling to this day, albeit with a new design. I still use those mics to this day, and I have recorded probably hundreds of tracks with them. I started looking for a D3600 probably about the same time I started this channel, which is almost 3 years now. Wow, time's flying. I wanted to add it to the kick mic shootout I had like a long time ago, which I filmed and never released. The one that I put out was a completely different one. But anyway, I had put some saved and notified searches on some of the usual online places where used gear sells. Occasionally, I'd get a message from eBay saying, result found for AKG D3600, but it was never a 3600. Sometimes a 3400, maybe once a 3500, but never the 36. Fast forward to early 2025, and a local live sound house was doing an inventory purge. My notifications on multiple sites went nuts. There were a bunch of D3600s in various conditions. I found one out of the listings that didn't look too bad and hit the buy now button faster than a jackrabbit on a date. I didn't even look at the price. I was so surprised to see any available. The price wasn't crazy, probably because there was literally no listings for any anywhere, and there was really no market price for used ones. A few days later, it arrived. It was a little dusty, which cleaned off nicely and had a couple scratches on the top and bottom, but bam, they were there. I finally got the one that got away. I immediately started looking for information on the mic, and almost as bad as trying to find the mic itself, there was little to no information to be found. A review done in 1992 came up stating that they were new releases from AKG in Europe. So there's a start. The mics were part of a lineup of what were called the tri-power mics. Another article written in 2003 said that AKG announces the new tri-power line of mics, which makes no sense since they were clearly around in the early 90s, but we know how AKG likes to repackage things and try again, so to speak. Perception P-line, anyone? Yeah. The mics were not listed in the 1988 catalog I came across. However, the D3500 and 3600 were listed in a 1997 catalog. So we'll work off the assumption that the mics were released sometime between 1989 and 1992. The tri-power design was something new. Instead of an easy and cheap to produce round body, the mics in this line were triangular in nature. This was supposedly chosen from some research that said that the human hand naturally forms a triangle while gripping something. Not sure who did that research, but okay, let's go marketing team. The bodies of the mics were all extremely robust. I have an old D3700 with this design, and it was a great sounding mic that I used for live shows where I didn't know how bad things were going to get abused. These mics have lasted forever and still work fine to this day, so I was kind of hoping that the D3600 would have fared the same, but I had some cause for concern. The D3600 was AKG's last dual dynamic diaphragm design. Like the 202 and the 224, there's a stacked capsule inside the mic. Unlike those other mics, however, the mounting system in the tri-power series was built a little more robust, and even AKG touted it as Road Warrior in their catalog. Fingers crossed. I ran into a few reviews online of some forum folk that claim they could see and hear the arrival time difference between the two capsules, which are literally on top of one another. So this is one of the things that I really want to check out. The catalog claims the mic to have little to no proximity effect. Because of this model of the three mics featured an extended bottom end range and has a low cut switch on the body to help with any bottom end buildup. But if there's no proximity effect, then why do you need the cut? Is the bottom end that predominant that it's needed? I don't know. It doesn't seem like that would be correct. The D3400 didn't have the switch and was a single capsule, but the D3500, also a single capsule, did have the switch. The 3500 was also quite different in other ways, but anyway, not sure why the variance with this, but that's another thing that I really want to check out. Speaking of the capsules, AKG states that they employ a maximum flux trademark neodymium and boron magnet for exceptionally accurate sonic image. In the same catalog, they also call these mics potatoes. No joke, they actually did.
208 Potato State! Love you, Pags.
Let's take the mic into the studio and see what it sounds like and how it stacks up to some other AKG mics, the D112 and the D12VR. Let's go. Before we get into the studio tests, I wanted to break this mic down a little bit and kind of take a look at the insides of it, since it's kind of unique having the two diaphragms and all. So I took the mic apart and let's take a look and see what we can find. After getting the body removed from the capsule assembly, I found two foam inserts that are there to dampen the sound from the tuning port and also helps remove any resonance from the mic body. The treble capsule is located in the front, and behind it is the bass capsule. The capsules are about 1 inch or 250 millimeters apart from each other. The capsules are connected to the output through a large inductor that's on the capsule assembly. This acts as the crossover. There's also a resistor and capacitor that's there connected to a switch for the high-pass filter. There's also a thin tube that connects to the back of the bass capsule, which is similar to what we see in a Sennheiser 421. Because of how the mic is ported and how the assembly is all put together, the maximum arrival time between the two diaphragms is 74 microseconds, but we'll see in a bit that in reality, it's not quite that much. Now let's take a look at the frequency response charts. This is the D3600 and it's very flat compared to the D112, which has almost a DJ smile kind of EQ to it, and the D12VR, which is also kind of flat but a little bit more contoured, especially in the high end. Now, if we compare this to the older D12E, which is a roller coaster ride, the D3600 is going to sound kind of flat and almost boring, I guess you could say. But as we learned from our omnidirectional mics, a little EQ can go a long way with a flat mic. Now, to test the arrival time difference, I set up a session in my DAW, and I rendered a high frequency sweep and a low frequency sweep. These are very quick sweeps and almost like blips. There are two, a low frequency and a high frequency. The low frequency is below the crossover point of the mic, and the high frequency test is above the crossover point of the mic. So I recorded each one of these separately, and I lined them up to the original waveforms just to see if we could see a time arrival difference. Now, the person on the forum that said that they could see the time difference between this mic and another mic that only had a single diaphragm, well, I'm at 48K here, and the difference that I calculated between the front capsule and the rear capsule is about one sample. I don't know about you, but I can't see or hear the difference between one sample unless I'm zoomed into the max, and audibly, unless I'm listening to signals that are above 20K, that one sample isn't really going to do anything to normal frequencies that we're going to have in music production. So all in all, I gotta say that this is definitely busted. Okay, it's not a bad mic, but I regret nothing in getting the D112s over 20 years ago. I mean, it's not like someone can just go out to the store and pick one of these up now. Even if you like the sound of it, you're probably not going to find any. It took me years to find one, and unless someone is hoarding them like the sound company that I got mine from, it's going to be slim pickings. The lack of proximity helps with some of the woofiness on the electric guitar, which is okay. On kick, which is where I probably would have used this mic, I still prefer the D112, but that's just my preference. The bottom end feels more focused on the D112 over the D3600, but I actually really like this mic on electric bass. I'd go so far as to say that I'd probably pick this mic for duty if I were still playing live and needed a mic to mic up a bass cabinet, which I probably wouldn't do when DI works a lot better anyway, but anyway. It's definitely a great out-of-the-box sound that would need little help on the back end. Does anybody out there use these mics? Do any of you have these mics? Do you use them on a regular basis? Has anybody even heard of them before? Am I just caught in some kind of fever dream where these mics were an actual known thing back in the day and everyone just forgot they existed? Let me know down in the comments what you thought and if you like the sound of them or if you use them and what you use them on. If you've gotten anything from today's video, please consider hitting those like and subscribe buttons. It'll really help out the channel. If you'd like to get early access to these videos and some other exclusive content, consider supporting the channel by becoming a member. Thank you to all of those out there that are still watching to this point. I really appreciate you checking out these videos. That's going to do it for this time. This is Pags, signing off. Fast forward to early 2025, and a local live sound house was doing an inventory page. Why can't I get through this? Holy crap. My notifications on multiple sites went nuts. There were a bunch of